everybody, my name is Erin and this is my booktube channel Waiting Moose. I wanted to talk to you guys today about audiobooks. I don't know how many of you listen to audiobooks, how many of you have tried to listen to audiobooks like I did in the past and failed. I just wanted to talk about them because they are how I do a majority of my reading these days. I have a 2-hour commute. It's an hour in the morning and an hour at night, approximately. So I walk to the bus, I get on the bus, I sit there for an hour, approximately an hour. I get off the bus, I get on a train, I take the train for about 5 minutes. So I listen to audiobooks through all of that. I love it. I get motion sickness trying to read on a moving vehicle or in a moving vehicle. So that didn't work for me. I tried and I would be able to read 5 or 10 pages and then I'd have to put it away for the rest of my bus ride. I wasn't reading a lot. I actually started disliking reading. I'd get home and I'd read a bit, but it really hurt my reading for a bit. And not that that's a bad thing. There's always other things to do, and I think I'm heading into a reading slump again. But the good news is I'm always going to have audiobooks, and they kind of keep me going because they tell me the story. I don't have to think about it. Probably not a good way to describe that. How critically am I reading when I'm doing an audiobook? The pros for me are that I can continue to read even in situations that it's not comfortable to read in, whether it's a moving vehicle, lack of light, on an airplane, because there's so many distractions. I can put in noise canceling headphones and just ignore everything going on around me. In an airport, a lot of places, sorry, my cat's in the closet, I'm just trying to figure out what she's doing. There are a lot of places that audiobooks work better than a paper book. There just are. I love audiobooks for that reason. I can listen to audiobooks at 1.5 to 2 times the speed. I'll start with this actually. I get my audiobooks from the library. There are 2 sources at my library that I can borrow books from. I can get them from audiobooks from, well, 3. I can get them from Overdrive and I can get them from Hoopla. Those are the 2 best places for me. Some books are also available on the 3M Cloud library in audio format, but I found that it doesn't let me change the speed that I'm listening to the book at. And that's important because I cannot listen to them at regular speed. You've heard me talk. I talk fast-ish, slow for most of the world, I guess, but fast for Canadian. And I find that when I listen to audiobooks at normal speed, they sound like this. I'm telling you about audiobooks. And it's way too slow. And it put me to sleep. So the first times I ever tried listening to audiobooks, I would listen for 5 minutes and I would fall asleep like that. They're great for that. And I decided I hated them because they didn't work for me. And it took me a long time to get back into them. I'm going to share a little here. I'm going to share just a little here, and I apologize because it's probably too much information, but I had cancer, and when I was getting treated for cancer, I didn't have a lot of energy, and I didn't read, like, hardly anything at all. But I would have to go for my chemo treatments, and they took, an hour or 2 hours, depending on what treatment I was getting. I'm antisocial. And typically, depending on where I got them, there would either be other people around for me to talk to if I got them done in a smaller center, but if I got it done in the city at the cancer center, it was like they really encouraged privacy, right? So you were in a screened off room, nobody saw you, no one came to talk to you, someone would bring you tea and a cookie and that was it, right? I got into the habit of listening to audiobooks, which was really great in the smaller centers when I didn't want to talk to people. Like the day my ex-father-in-law was there also getting chemo at the same time as me. My favorite day ever. I started listening to audiobooks. I was getting them from Overdrive and I didn't really spend a lot of time finding the audiobooks I was listening to. So I was listening to Robert Parker? Anyways, I was listening to these Westerns, which was fine, right? It got me through my treatments and it actually gave me some books to read while I was doing it. But that's when I started reading them. And I noticed that there was this fancy little thing that I could click and I could change the speed of the books I was listening to. And at that time I was just listening to books on Overdrive because we didn't have Hoopla at my library. I started listening to them at a faster speed. So at 1 times the speed, so the recording speed, it would put me to sleep. So then I tried 1.4 because overdrive is even numbers. So I went from 1 to 1.4 and that worked. And then one day I tried bumping that up and 1.6 worked, and I finally worked my way up to 2 times, which keeps me awake, totally keeps me awake because I have to pay attention now when I'm listening to it. So I get on the bus or I'm walking my dog. Like I probably spend 3 hours a day listening to audiobooks. A lot of the audiobooks that I listen to are between, 6 and 10 hours. So really I'm a day, maybe 2 days listening to an audiobook when I'm taking the bus or walking the dog. Even when I was running, so I was training for a half marathon, I would listen to audiobooks because they were a great way to distract myself from the pain of running. There's not that much pain, mostly. So they were just a great way for me to focus on reading when I didn't really feel like reading, but I needed a distraction. It actually motivates me to go for a walk because I can listen to the audiobook. Instead of sitting at my desk working, I will go for a walk and listen to the audiobook. I just find that they've been a really great way for me to read a lot of books that I may not have been able to get through some of the rougher spots in a paper book. Take one I recently finished, which was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There were parts of that. There's parts of a lot of books that aren't all that interesting, especially when the cozy mysteries and stuff. Sometimes there's sections where I'm just like, oh, get on with it and solve the mystery already, which means I probably shouldn't be reading them. Anyway, I do. There might be a book that, even like a chapter or a couple chapters where I wouldn't be able to get through it normally. I can get through it with the audiobook and I listen to it. It's not like I'm skimming those pages or skipping them, but I still listen to the book and I get the whole book. I love audiobooks for that. I think that they are great. They've been a really good way for me to get some classics back into my reading rotation, try out some different genres because, I've got all this time and it's time when I can actually focus on, like, nobody bugs me when I'm on the bus. So my thoughts on this are really all over the place. The cons of it, the other time I listened to them, you know how I said they put me to sleep when I listen to them at a slower speed? On nights when I have trouble falling asleep, I put on an audiobook and I set the sleep timer for 10 minutes. And I slow the audiobook down to 1, 1.2, whatever, and I listen to it. And it never fails to put me to sleep. Yeah, I'll have an earbud in my ear, whatever. I'll wake up sometime in the middle of the night and pull it out. They're just cheap earbuds anyway. They're like $10 at Radio Shack. It helps me fall asleep, but I also, because I am paying attention to the book, and if I'm not, I can rewind it and listen to that section over. The number of times I've had to rewind what I listened to the night before is probably 50% of the time, if not 75% of the time. I get up in the morning and I have to rewind to something I remember listening to, but it's fine. I'm listening to the book. Some of it I hear like multiple times and it works out really well. The cons are that sometimes they put me to sleep, especially on the bus, because I don't set a sleep timer on the bus. And you really have to be careful because some of the narrators aren't going to be compatible for you. I listened to one recently and I found that the voice of the person narrating was too whiny for me, and it made it really difficult for me to sympathize with the character because a lot of the time I just wanted the character to shut up because I'm a good person that way. Yes, I am such a good person that I really just wanted this person having a really rough time in the book to shut up already. Or stop whining. Just tell me the story, stop whining. But there are other authors or other narrators that are extremely good. I've heard really good things about the Jim Dresden series, the books that are read by James Marsters, I want to say, but I could be wrong on that. But those are supposed to be quite good. Whoever narrated The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy did a fantastic job. It was just amazing. The Michael Connelly series, I've been listening to his Mickey Haller series on there. Fantastically narrated. There's just some really good audiobooks out there, some really well narrated ones. And if you go on Overdrive, you'll find a really good array of genres. There's mystery, there's romance, there's historical, There's nonfiction, there's true crime, there's fantasy, there's sci-fi, there's everything. My husband's been listening to the sci-fi ones, and that's actually worked for him. He's been in a huge reading slump lately. On Hoopla, I've liked Hoopla lately because Overdrive doesn't have a lot of cozy mysteries on it. Hoopla has a ton of cozy mysteries, so I've been able to catch up on a lot of my series that way. And it's been really good, really, really good for me. I think I had this year a plan to read 120 books because I've been averaging about 100 to 120 books a year. So 2 books a week, which isn't bad when you're reading a book that's less than 300 pages. This one's 290 pages. I mean, reading 2 of those a week is nothing, especially if you're reading on the bus or you've got a little, time on weekends to read on vacation, whatever. This year, because I added audiobooks and I've listened to a lot of shorter audiobooks, obviously. I think America Again by Stephen Colbert was 3 hours total. So it wasn't a huge time commitment. I mean, it was short. I think I actually listened to that at lunch and on part of my way home. What was I saying? Oh yes, the number of books. This year I upped the number of books I've read from 120 last year to almost 300 this year. And the majority of those really have been audiobooks. You can get longer ones. I listened to Anna Karenina on audiobook, and I think that's the only way that I was able to finish that because, oh my God, it was painful. Like, I enjoyed the story, I did, and I get why it's a classic, and I get why it gets such rave reviews. But there's some, it's 900 and some pages. I think it was 30 plus hours to listen to it because I listened to it on a road trip from here, I'm in Alberta, to Manitoba, which is like a 10 or 12 hour road trip, not including stop. Like, we did it one day. And so I listened to it on the way there and on the way back and while I was there. And I still had more listening to do when I got back. I mean, it was a really good way for me to read that classic because I think I probably would have stalled out in some of more slow and boring parts of that sucker, or skimmed a lot more of it than I did. How about you? Do you listen to audiobooks? What audiobooks have you found really enjoyable? Where do you get your audiobooks from? I said I get mine from the library. I don't reread a lot. For me to buy audiobooks, I've considered the Audible membership. It just doesn't make sense for me because I'm never going to listen to them again. And if I like the book, I'll buy it in paper because I can, and that just seems like the better idea, because if I'm going to reread it, I will probably reread it on paper instead of an audiobook. I'm on Twitter. Find me on Twitter and tweet to me. Tweet to me. Tweet! Oh my God. This is awesome. 2 thumbs up. Okay, so I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Goodreads. I am Erin. This is my booktube channel, Waiting Moose, and I'm glad you listened. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry that my thoughts were all over the place on this one. I hope it made sense. I was trying to make it more of a discussion and not have it very planned, but I think maybe I should have gone for planned. Next time I do a book discussion or a discussion about books, I will plan it a lot better. Thanks again for watching. Bye!